Ivan is over there texting on his phone in the back.
In the back.
Yes, I'm Thomas.
Hi, Thomas. I'm
Hi.
Jennifer. I'm representing the Food Systems Pavilion.
Oh, lovely to have you here.
Yeah, I figured while you were waiting, I would
Yeah,
just.
that's good. Thank you.
Yeah, good to meet you. So instead of Vidisha, it will be Rodriguez.
Okay. So we should change.
So for instead of Vidisha,
There.
he's global communications lead. But you can just say from API. That's fine as well.
Oh. We're testing again. Testing. Okay, honorable guests, dear audience, water, food, and climate friends, welcome to this celebration of the Food, Agriculture, and Water Day, with the recognition of the interlinkages between food, agriculture, and water, and the need to break the silos between those sectors. We are reaching across ALE to find common understanding of climate solutions in the spirit of collective action and holistic management. We are joined by representatives of the 3 food pavilions, so may I please introduce the representatives and ask you to come up to the scene. Juliette Tronjon, the Senior Policy and Public Affairs Specialist at Proveg at Food for Climate Pavilion. Welcome. Hey, Juliette.
Hi.
Nice to meet you. I'm Thomas.
Nice to meet you too.
And for the Food System Pavilion, Jennifer Cho, Senior Director, Climate Resilient Food Systems, EDF. Please, Jennifer, welcome. Food and Agriculture Pavilion, Inkar Kadir Sanova, Senior Officer focusing on climate change in agriculture, FAO. Please.
I'm going to replace Inca, okay?
Okay, you're replacing Inca.
Yes.
So, please say your name.
Kaveh Zahidi.
Okay.
The Director of the Office of Climate Change, Biodiversity and Environment at FAO.
Director of the Office of Climate Change and Biodiversity and
Environment.
We got it all. Welcome. Welcome. And last but not least, Rodrigo Ordonez, Global Communications Lead for Water, Climate Change and Resilience at IWMI, Water for Climate Pavilion. Welcome, all of you. I'm going to make this easy for you because you're going to get one question to ask, and it's the same for all of you. So, if I start with you, Juliette, if you were to say what has been your biggest takeaway from the COP28 presidency day for food, agriculture, and water?
That's a very good question. Yeah, I mean, it's been great because this year we are collaborating with the Food Systems Pavilion. So it was not only Food Day. Like this year, every food system stakeholder came together at one place to have really difficult but also necessary discussion about the changes we need to have. And that's my biggest takeaway. We're able to talk together and collaborate. So that's a good one.
Okay, thank you. That was very straight to the point. Thank you for that. And Jennifer, what would you say is the biggest takeaway for you?
Well, now I'm struggling to talk about the food-water linkages or just general COP, which is much broader. Okay, I'll talk about today the the new draft on the global goal on adaptation was released. And, I think in one sense, the community was happy to see food in there stronger, water in there stronger, but, the two were separate. So I think that also brings out a point. It's not to be negative. I think it's great that they're in there. And the next step is to see if there can be an acknowledgement more of the interlinkages and what you are attempting to do here today, right? So we started out the day in the Food Systems Pavilion with a bridging water and food event. We had IWMI talk, in some sense, on behalf of the Water Pavilion as well. So it was a really nice opening. I said to the audience we were going to be closing with the reception here. So just a really nice kind of bookending of the day to really drive home that it's Food, Ag, and Water Day, right? And so for us, we really do see that food and water, we've acknowledged now that they're very interlinked, very critical to each other, but the communities themselves still don't really agree with how to move forward together. What are the barriers or disagreements or agreements? So for us, that's a next step. We're trying to build more collaboration in that space.
Thank you, thank you. And did I remember your name right? If I say Karim.
Cave.
Kave.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Apologies.
And it's Li Feng's fault that I'm here because I had to replace somebody else. Look, I just had a practice run for this panel because I was with Minister Mariam Amheri and with Dr. Agnes Kalibata talking about exactly the same thing. The impressions of this day, and their words were that this day is a turning point, and I would tend to agree. Right? I mean, we have a declaration with 152 heads of government that have signed up. It's a really strong political signal. It's got a lot of important things in it. Could it have more water? Probably. Could it interrelate things better? Possibly. But it's a really strong political signal. And let's not forget that it took about 26 years to even start talking about food and agriculture in this process, right? So it really does feel like a turning point. My day started with the farmers. It was an amazing, amazing scene to just see farmers from all corners of the world here with so much hope now of actually receiving attention, receiving finance, receiving support for the solutions they are already offering and for those that they need to offer tomorrow. So really, for me, the best summary is a turning point, an amazing declaration, a lot of initiatives that have come out to help already think about implementing that declaration, including on water-resilient agri-food systems, but including presidency initiatives that we're engaged in as well, like the Technical Cooperation Collaborative, to bring the sort of the constellation of partners that are working in this area together with the declaration in a way as our North Star. So that's been my impression of the day so far.
Thank you for that. Thank you for bringing another example of collective action to the table with 152 countries. It's quite impressive and absolutely a symbolic gesture and signal to the rest. So, Rodrigo, if you give your perspective, how would you summarize your reflections for the day?
Sure. So also filling in for my colleague Vidisha, so filling in some big shoes over here. Many of the things have already been mentioned, but maybe what I wanted to highlight today is that we all know about the different nexus. We know about the W, the E, the F, the E, and the plus and beyond. But today it was all about the W and the F. And this comes after 10 days of very intense COP. But today, really, all the sessions and all the attention was on the water and the food. So for us, the day started with the ministerial dialogue on water resilient food systems, and that was co-chaired by COP28 UAE and COP30 Brazil. And it's really about. It's the first time ever in a COP that it's been at that level, at the ministerial level, and it goes to very well together with the declaration that the other panelists have mentioned. And then in the afternoon we had the follow-up of that and how to make it live and how to make it actionable, which was the launch of a partnership that's going to be hosted by UNFCCC on climate resilience food systems as well. So slightly different angle, same emphasis. You cannot have the food without the water. You need both, and you need both for climate as well. And that's the biggest takeaway for the day, apart from many others, because the day, I think, for everyone in attendance has been very busy. Yeah, so.
Well summarized. Thank you very much, all of you. And just to not have you, I mean, we've been here many days now, and it's late of the day. If I just ask you, doing that, all of you all who are here, who of you mainly represents the food sector here? If I can see hands up, can I see some food sector hands up? Food sector hands up. Good. And how many of you represent water? And how many of you represent something else? Yeah, good, good. So there's a good blend. Thank you for that. And thank you for coming here and sharing your daily insights and reflections. Very much appreciated. Thank you. So with that, I now have the honor to introduce to you our keynote speaker, Mr. Li-Feng Li, who is the Director of Land and Water Division at FAO. So Li-Feng Li, I leave it for you to take over for a moment.
Okay, maybe I'll just use this one.
Yes. And I'm going to see if my cable...
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. First and foremost, let me also again use this opportunity to thank all these partners. And because of that, I think we contributed to the 150 countries that's endorsed and signed on the declaration. And that's the first time. And we make the history today. Thank you very much. Very well done to all of you. That's exactly the significant moment that we see water has been mainstreamed or start to be mainstreamed in the food sector, in the agriculture sector, and also in the climate sector, in the climate talks. It's a huge success. I think everyone who has been supporting this process, we should be really feel proud of that. Within FAO, that also has happened. Within FAO, we started a new FAO journey, started from last year, Raw Water Dialogue. Last year, we have the first one in October. This year, in October again, we have the second Raw Water Dialogue. But from last year to this year, we bring a number of the solutions to New York, to COP, and to other global platforms. That's including, for example, we committed to support all the developing countries to develop their national water roadmaps to achieve all SDGs, not only 6, as these national water roadmaps to SDGs. We committed to organize irrigation mapping, recognize the climate impacts in the future, how to deal with the irrigation in the future. We committed to strengthen global water database. We committed to also organize a global assessment of flood impacts on agriculture and rural areas. We supported countries to tap into climate financing for water, but also for land and for soils to address the drought and drought risks. So we submitted all the 8 commitments to the New York process, but within FAO, for the first time, water was the theme for the 43rd FAO conference. For those who don't know FAO conference, it is the highest level of decision-making body in FAO. This year, we have over 130 ministers and vice ministers joined this FAO conference, and we organized 3 roundtables on water scarcity, flood management, and water infrastructure. Further on, all the ministers at the FAO conference decided that water is the priority, water is the theme for all other FAO governing bodies. That include governing body on agriculture, on fishery, on forests, biodiversity, livestock production, etc., etc. So you can say within FAO, we also mainstreamed the water into the corporate strategies, governing body decisions, and the operations in the future. So let's really work together, team up. at least externally for us, internally for us, externally with all of the partners, really to demonstrate, yes, the water solutions are climate solutions. At the same time, we can also start to play the video, which is one of the report that we submitted to the FAO conference that's focused on flood management. Certainly, we recognize flood, especially the devastating flood. That can have a devastating impact on agriculture, on food, on villages, on infrastructure. However, at the same time, we also need to recognize flood itself is also the part of the natural rhythm of the river system. That's bring the nutrient from upstream to the downstream, and then facilitate lots of biological, ecological process, like many fishes or the shrimps, other species. They cannot properly spawn if there's no flood event. Yes, we can play this video. So that's why we need to look at how we can really learn the new way to dealing with the flood. To dealing with the flood, especially as a natural rhythm to support the freshwater biodiversity and the inland fisheries. And how we can deal with the flood to capture some of the flood water, then use that for the dry seasons. And how we can also develop a flood adaptive livelihood, flood adaptive economies. So we come up with 8 recommendations, and the report now is available online, and there's a barcode, and you can download that report. Do we have the problem with the video? Why is it not play?
Do we have a problem with the video?
You can
or
play, yeah,
you
yeah.
Start it. Please start.
Yeah, you can start it. Yeah. Thank you. I just want to, really take this moment. Thank you very much, for your participation, and certainly you can, download this flood report, and again wish you a very successful COP28, and we will continue our journey to the World Water Forum next year, to the Stockholm Water Week in your place. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a 5-minute video.
Okay, it stopped. It isn't. Okay. So we'll continue. We bring it further. But here's the QR code if you want to download the report. And thank you, Li Feng, for sharing the valuable insights from what happens within FAO, the publication itself on integrated flood management for resilient agri-food systems and rural development, but also your insights. The films, I think, sets the scene for our next part, where we will engage in a discussion on the complex interactions between water, finance, and food and climate. So I have the pleasure to introduce Nabwami, Christine Eastern, and Southern African Farmers Forum, ESAF Uganda, small-scale farmer. Welcome, Christine. And also Laureen Grenly, Executive Vice President of Food, Water Food and Waste at X Prize. Welcome, Laureen. So, if I start with you, Christine, based on your experience, what are the most pressing challenges that you would say that you experience related to changing environment? How can global agendas contribute to empowering smallholder farmers to address water-related challenges?
Thank you so much. Once again, I'm Nabwami Christine, a small-scale farmer from Esaf, Uganda. In the first place, we want to share where we come from. Where we came from, everybody knows here that we used to have our natural wells, our natural springs, the streams, the rivers, that where we could go and fetch water, and we had the natural ways of harvesting and the seasonal changes that we used to undergo. So we knew how the seasons were moving and how we could carry on production basing on the seasons. So today, with the degradation, with the encroachment on the lakes, the rivers, the streams, in the first place, we no longer have the natural wells. We have to move long distances to fetch water as women for our homes. Then secondly, if you can't reach the place, you have to buy the national water services, which are costly to farmers. And then we have a challenge of floods on the farm. On our farms, we are experiencing floods, which come with heavy rainfalls, heavy waters, and you know what happens? It washes away everything. It washes away our crops. It comes with so many wastes to us. So it moves from its natural homes, and then it comes to live in people's homes. And you know what comes with it? It comes with a lot of things, health issues. It comes with the maize, the beans, the coffee. They all are carried from the gardens to the homes, and it also continues to other destinations. So when it washes away our products, you know what comes out is poverty. We can't harvest. So if we can't harvest, we are impoverished. And this comes as a result that we can no longer, livelihood becomes hard because we have no means of living. Then secondly, we also have a challenge that when we have to handle the long droughts as farmers, we have to catch up with irrigation, to live with irrigation. And irrigation is costly. Back in my community, we cost share. But even the amount we are supposed to cost share is heavy for a farmer. So we have to learn to adapt in a hard way. And thirdly, we have polluted waters today. Since the streams are no longer managed, boundaries, the buffer zones, they are all encroached on. So we no longer have water catchment areas. We consume water that is not purified naturally, and the pollution that we get, the impacts are enormous, and they all come straight to a farmer. Because here we don't have alternatives to living. We have to consume that water, we have to use that water in any way. So even the energies that we use are also managed by water. There are times when we can't even go to the forests. Anyway, if we still have those forests there, we can't go to the forest because the roads that we use to the forest are all water soaked. And then secondly, the firewood that we would have picked from the forests are also so wet that we can't use them for cooking. And then the emissions, where do they land? In the water bodies. So when the emissions land in the water bodies, it also comes back to a farmer, because that is the water that we are left to use. And these emissions, when they impact on health, the effects, the challenges that we face, the diseases transferred through water, like dysentery, cholera, and all the others, and they are all going into the farmer's pocket, which is no longer able to sustain a farmer. And the other one is the destruction of the naturally God-given ecosystems. There are some food that we get from the rivers, from those natural streams. We get fish. There's a plant that we eat from the waters, but now we can no longer even find it. These were things that we are God-given. They were indigenous to us and culturally acceptable, but we can no longer access them. But going forward, addressing the water-related challenges, in the first place, we came with an ideology that we wanted farmers to be funded to adapt. Now that we hear the declaration and how states have pronounced themselves, the argument is, what is the bureaucratic structure whereby a farmer is able to access? So we come out with a voice to speak loudly. Let us be involved in the decision making. Let us get involved in those roundtable discussions because it's we who are impacted. It's we who have the real experiences. So we need to sit and discuss with our leaders, with our heads of, with whoever is responsible, the duty bearers, so that we reach an agreement. And then secondly, we don't need the structures in streaming the money to see that it reaches us. Let it begin with a small-scale farmer, and you'll see how far it will go. But if it begins at that level, COP29 will have no impact. There will be nothing to be implemented because there will always be an excuse. We didn't do this because this happened. We didn't do this because the farmers didn't react. And secondly, we need to strengthen the water policies related to water and health and everything. These policies are in existence, but there is a scenario that farmers are not even aware about these policies, yet they impact so much on a farmer. So we need that awareness for a farmer. They get to know how they relate with the policies. And this is one way that we can be helped as small-scale farmers. Secondly, the protections of the natural ecosystem. If it is protected and not encroached on, because in my community we have a challenge of people we call, at this level we call them the corporations or multinationals, but at our level we call them the investors. When they come to a country, they are given those large lands, they are even given, they get chance to use the streams in the names of the environmental impact assessments. But we, the people who live there don't know what really happens in the environmental impact assessment. Where do the negotiations reach? And how do they how do they connect with us? So we just find ourselves being displaced, not knowing what happened. So they have to regulate the investors who come to us and make us aware of what the investors are meant to do within our communities and how it is socially bringing back to we who live in those communities. And lastly, we also wish to see that at least there is an ideology that farmers have been at the center of this discussion. Can we keep it holistically at the hearts of all the discussions? Can we have farmers fully represented and their voices amplified? At some point, there should be a voice of the small-scale farmers that this is the real experience, this is the real story that happens from a farmer. So given our stories, we are thinking that we can keep the discussion going.
Thank you so much, Christine, for sharing and setting the images early in your talk to what the experiences you have, but also your leadership in displaying what is needed and why and how it can be done. So thank you for that. Listening to Christine, Lauren, how do you work fostering these cross-disciplinary collaborations and development of innovation that can provide solutions to the joint food and water systems challenges?
Sure. So let me just say what XPRIZE is for those of you who aren't familiar with us. So we are a nonprofit organization that runs incentivized competitions. So we run global prizes across now 7 different domains. I lead our food, water, and waste domain. So we have a couple prizes in that area right now, but we also have space, healthcare, education, climate and energy. So we basically design and execute these global prizes. For example, we have one right now that is on alternative proteins, and it's a 4-year prize, I think $15 million, and we have teams from all over the world that are competing in this prize. And we have one coming up in January that we're going to be announcing in water scarcity. So we run prizes. How do we foster collaboration? So we at XPRIZE, along the entire pathway from ideating on what is a good prize, what direction do we want to go, all the way through to successful prize execution, we engage external stakeholders. So, for example, on a yearly basis, we run a 9-month process for ideating on what will our next prizes be that we will go after for fundraising. That process involves what we call our brain trust. So we bring in people from whatever the areas that we're interested in, so agriculture, food, water. We bring in people from that sector and from across that sector. So everything from people working in policy to boots on the ground people working directly with issues, people working in the private sector. And those people come in and really help us identify what are the biggest problems that need to be solved and how do we turn them into a competition that will attract globally people who want to come in and solve those problems. And then once we are running a prize, we do a lot with our teams to create a community. So all of our teams, again, they're from around the world. We basically create an ecosystem for the teams. We have events where the teams can meet, for example, investors for future financing. We connect teams that are looking for collaborations. We have a lot of in-kind partners that offer services to our teams. So we do a lot to really engage the teams and help them collaborate and be successful through the prize. So really everything that we do, we don't really generate ourselves. We really bring in external people, and I think that's sort of the crux of how we collaborate and try to integrate ideas and really go after the big problems.
Thank you. And since Christine, you have already answered my next question, which was very policy related, and you gave examples and you gave suggestions on ways forward and how to work on this and find the methods and also the systematic links and the inclusion of local farmers. If I ask you one more question, we're a little bit over time, but the same question as the first panel had. What is your biggest, if you give me a short answer, what's your biggest takeaway from this Food and Water Day?
From this Food and Water Day, actually, I attended the evaluation and I had strong statements, promising statements that at least if we go by them, maybe we have a future to live. According to the evaluation, in the first place, we had heads of states that briefed us on how they are going to handle, what it means for their states, how it is going to be implemented, how the finances are going to be handled, and then the way forward. So they made strong statements that were very revealing and very touching for me as a small-scale farmer. Everybody showed the much passion, the much interest. Actually, one minister told us that we have to save the best for last. And she was so passionate about it. And one head of state made a statement that was also revealing to me when he said that there is no solution, there is no one state-made solution to the challenges that we are facing, but we have to connect to make sure that all the stakeholders, the most impacted, can all be involved in this process of solving the climate challenge. And then they told us about the 3 C's that are going to guide us in this process, in this year that we are going to see the implementation being initiated, and what will be the impacts or what it would have done by the time we come back for COP29. So they told us that all the initiatives that are going to be taken are a constellation of connected contributions. So every stakeholder should contribute to this cause so that we see something come out of it. And secondly is the breakdown of the finances, the pronouncements that were made by the heads of state. What spoke to me as a small-scale farmer is that in the breakdown, there was food and agriculture, the renewables, like for we who live subsistence, then the inclusion of water, nature, health. These are things that at least connect instantly to me as a small-scale farmer. So I'm thinking before we handle the bigger things, we have to first concentrate on water, health, gender, those things that are just next to me as a smallholder farmer. Maybe what missed out was that all this that they are talking about has a next of kin to it, that is the insurance. And there was no clear pronouncement on insurance. Yet you remember, we as small-scale farmers, if there is a way we have to go, we lean on insurance, but the collateral, the security that we have to offer is what we produce on our farms. If we fail to produce, it comes back to personal property and assets because we have to pay back. But if we manage to produce, then we can live alongside insurance. But we are sending out a message that at least let there be a fair way of how we can access insurance that is fair and not heavy for a small-scale farm. So I think in all this, there is another talk that has to be included, that is the insurance, because it's somehow, at some point, it's the way to go for a farmer, given the impacts that we are facing, the droughts, the flooding, and the so many things that happen on our farms.
Thank you. Thank you for that very comprehensive and very straightforward answer. And Laurel, if I can ask you to just give your short brief on takeaways for this day.
Yeah, so I guess, my background was water originally, and I ended up working the past 10 years sort of at the intersection of agriculture and water. And I've always been astonished at how siloed the disciplines are between ag folks and water, sort of my water education. Those people feel like don't really talk to food and ag folks, and it's really amazing to see here those communities come together. And I hope it spreads more through COP, because I also attended the Business and Philanthropy Climate Forum last weekend, and water was glaringly absent, I think, from that forum. So today was amazing to end on it, but I think there's definitely more work to do.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And thank you all for coming, listening. I think having Food for Climate Pavilion, the Food Systems Pavilion, Food and Agriculture Pavilion here today, as well as all the honorable guests and US speakers and panelists, has been a showcase of what this pavilion is about. This is not one organization pavilion, it's a collective where we are asking for interactions, interlinks, dialogues, discussions, and cooperations and collaborations. So thank you all for listening. Thank you for coming. We have a small reception here, so please grab something to drink, stop and talk, and listen more to Christine and Laurel and the other speakers who are here. Grab your chance and have a drink. Thank you for tonight. Thank you.